What's your favorite science movie?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I love 2001.
Okay.
I love the beginning, the dawn of man scene, although we know now that that's probably not what happened early in human evolution.
Yeah.
I love 2001.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty. You can watch it over and over again.
Absolutely. I don't know what it means.
Neither do I. You're not supposed to. It's Kubrick.
Yeah.
Hey, folks. Craig Levati here with the Houston Museum of Natural Science. I am standing inside the Paleo Hall with Dr. Jeremy DeSilva, and the doctor is going to be in the lecture hall tonight here at the museum talking about, what are you going to be talking about?
Early human evolution.
Early human evolution.
How we got to be the way we are today.
And this is a whole thing that started back in 2008 with a child in following a dog inside a cave in South Africa.
Yeah, so we've known about fossils in South Africa
Got it.
for some time, since the 1920s into the 30s and 40s. But this was a brand new discovery. And it was made, like you said, by a 9-year-old boy, Matthew Berger, who was with his dad, who was a paleoanthropologist. And he tripped over a rock and said, "Hey, Dad, found a fossil." And his dad came over, and it was the collarbone of an early human and a little jaw of a human sticking out as well. And as more work was done at the site, eventually what they
Skull holder, thank you.
was a skull
Okay.
and skeleton of two early human ancestors we call Australopithecus sediba. They lived about 2 million years ago.
Okay. And then in 2013, title of the lecture, you find the Homo Naledi.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And those are, let's see the skull of those.
So this is a different species that lived more recently.
Okay.
Lived only 250,000 years ago, which was a big surprise to us because from its anatomy, the small brain and the projection of the snout.
There's a little snouty, you said.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You guys, if you want to check out this really cool skull here.
And we would have, and you could
bring it up
compare the
closer over
brain
there if you
size,
want
you can
to.
see how much smaller it is than mine.
Don't compare it to my brain. That's not. Let's not do that today.
But we would have expected this to live a little bit longer.
Okay.
So it was surprising, and to scientists making discoveries like this that surprise us, it's really fun.
Okay. Can I see? You had one of their hands too.
I do.
Okay.
So this is the hand of a Homo Naledi, and it's like mine, and having a long, robust thumb, and it would be good for precision grip.
Climbing.
Well,
Climbing,
those curved
okay.
fingers, right?
Okay.
So those curved fingers are quite a mystery to us right now. We assume it was a climbing hand, but the ecology was probably not that different than it is today, and there's not really much to climb.
Okay.
So we're still trying to figure out what's going on with this hand.
Now, why are we? Obviously, it's not a question of why, but I guess what can we learn from this skull here and these hands?
Sure.
What can we learn?
So one of the things that I think we're learning is the diversity of the human form.
Okay.
That in the past, there were all these different ways of being human.
Skull holder, would you like to take the skull? I'll end up putting it in my pocket.
And of course,
There we
today
go,
there's
yeah.
just us, right?
Yeah.
But only 250,000 years ago, there were all these different kinds of humans. It's almost like Tolkien got it right with Middle Earth, right? That there are all these different kinds of upright walking creatures that used to share the Earth, and they're cousins of ours. And now they're gone. And we think for Neanderthals, for instance, that we reabsorbed them into our gene pool. We interbred with them. But with something like Homo Naledi, maybe not. And so there are a lot of interesting questions about what happened to them and why did we make it?
When do we think the Homo Naledi kind of died out?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Okay.
We just have the one site that we've dated, which is about 250,000 years old. And there's a new site that's been discovered, but we don't know its age yet. We're still working on the geology of that.
So I guess at one time there was different variations of us, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
Just roaming the earth, and
Right.
eventually it culled down to just the one that we know now.
That's right.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
so
would
things
we?
used to be a little more exciting, I guess, in certain ways.
What would these, I guess, early humans? What would they be like if they walked in the door right now?
So the key phrase you just used is that they would have walked in the door. Yeah.
Okay.
And as far back as we go in the lineage, right to the common ancestor we share with chimpanzees, the thing that defines our lineage is upright walking.
Okay.
That seems to be the initial step that got our lineage going was moving on two legs.
Okay.
And we still don't fully understand why. It makes us slow. It makes us vulnerable to injury, and yet here we are, right? So it must the pros must have outweighed the cons.
Got it.
Yeah.
Would they have had any sort of language or anything, the Homo Naledi?
Great question. We don't know. We don't know. I suspect they probably did, but to test that we need some evidence, and one of the pieces of evidence we would rely on is a bone in the throat called the hyoid, And even though we have 2,000 fossils from Homo naledi,
You don't have that.
we don't have a hyoid yet.
Okay, that's sort of like that's a key missing piece
It
you need to
is.
have for that. So if they were to walk in the door, obviously they'd be walking on what would their intelligence be like?
Yeah, again, another thing that we're not entirely sure of.
Okay.
Their brains are relatively small, and oftentimes we've associated that with complex behaviors. However, at this cave, in this amazing cave where these bones are located, we don't find bones of other animals. And so one of the hypotheses for how they all got down there is that they were deliberately disposing of their dead in this chamber.
Oh,
and
wow.
if that's the case, this is a hypothesis still that needs rigorous testing, but if that turns out to be the case, then you have a small-brained creature behaving in a very complex and sophisticated kind of way.
That had burial rituals.
Exactly.
Got
That's
it.
right.
That's not.
Yep.
That's an evolved act.
We thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably still is, but it wouldn't necessitate a large brain like we have.
And how tall would these early humans be?
So we have their leg bones, and from their legs you can predict height pretty well. And they were roughly 5 feet tall or so.
So a little bit, smaller than us, obviously.
Yep.
Okay. Let me see the hand again. This is just wild. And this would have been an adult, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all the growth plates are fused on that individual, so we can tell from the bones if you have a kid or if you have an adult from teeth and from open growth plates.
Okay.
So
What more? What more are you learning? I'm sure just like with any sort of thing like this,
Yeah.
you're learning stuff every single day.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time you guys go out there. What's been the most recent finding? What's been the most aha moment you guys have had?
So at that particular site,
Put this hand inside your pocket.
thank you.
There we go.
So with the fossils from that site, what we're able to do with quite a bit of resolution now that we have the fossils analyzed in a detailed way is reconstruct a gait. So when you said they would walk in the door, we now are able to know with specificity how they would walk, how much extension they would have at their leg, how much rotation they would have at their hip and at their knee, how they would place their foot on the ground, and so we can reconstruct their gait.
Would they have been fast? I guess.
So from their anatomy, it looks like they would have been what we would call economical, that they can get from point A to point B pretty well, but their joints are really tiny, so they wouldn't have endurance.
Okay.
So their ranges were probably quite small, and they wouldn't have the ability to range over the large areas that Homo sapiens could do, the Neanderthals could do, so they probably had quite a small home range.
So their body makeup wasn't built for longevity.
That's right.
Okay, so
Exactly.
that was one of those things that Mother Nature sort of had to phase out with this group of early humans.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
leads us today to being able to run fast, and we do everything that we do now, and
Yep.
play football and do all kinds of other crazy things. So tonight at the lecture here at the museum, what are you going to be talking about? Just going over, I guess, everything of the past 11 years that's gone on in
That's
South
right.
Africa?
So I'm going to talk about those two discoveries of Australopithecus sediba at Malapa Cave and then Homo naledi at the Rising Star Cave, and how these new discoveries are really reshaping how we think about human origins and evolution, that things were not as linear as we once thought.
Yeah.
Things are much more complicated.
Well, we were looking back here before we went on air, and we were sort of looking at all this, and it's so. You talk to a kid and say, that there's humanity was this big.
Yeah.
It's not as linear as you're saying. It's not linear.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
you see, on T-shirts and bumper stickers, you see the chimp slowly turning into the human, and that's just not how it happened.
Okay.
It was much more complicated.
More twists and turns.
Frankly, it was more interesting than
Okay.
that. Right.
It was sort of things had to get culled away, and things got
Exactly. Or things got reabsorbed.
Yeah.
As we know with Neanderthals branched off, and then now we know that genetically we pulled them back in, that they were re-immersed into our gene
we
pool.
needed some of their DNA to sort of make us last longer.
Well, whether we needed it or not.
Yeah, there we go.
It happens,
We don't know yet. We had Dr. Scott Solomon from Rice in here a few months ago, and we were sort of talking about how we can learn so much from things back then,
Yeah.
but also we can learn a little bit about where we're probably going. Is that the fun? That's another fun part too. I've always
It is
thought.
really fun. It's
Yeah.
fun to speculate on that. And evolution is this wonderful idea that has both explanatory power, but it also has predictive power to some degree as well.
Yeah.
However, it's so contingent on what the environment's going to do, and that's the part that's difficult to predict.
and scary.
Yeah, no doubt.
Very cool. So there are still tickets left for this lecture tonight here at the museum. Are you going to do anything else when you're in Houston other than talking about Homo Naledi?
I might catch an Astros game.
Might catch an Astros game,
yep,
but you're a Red Sox fan.
I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We won it back. We're going to get that trophy back.
There's a good chance of it this year.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Good guy. I love him already. All right, folks. That's it. Come see the lecture tonight.
Great.
We got baseball to talk about.
Thanks.